Chapter 293. Gu Xingyin remembered the loss that the original owner had suffered this time. She looked at the smiling Qi Shirshir. Didn't you want to fall? I'll let you have a taste of what it's like to fall. Gu Xingyin's expression suddenly changed. She did not expect that Qi Shirshir would suddenly hold on to her. Her face immediately turned pale, and she fiercely pushed the person beside her away. Qi Shirshir was caught off guard, and was pushed by a strong force. She fell to the hard floor. It really hurts. She sucked in a breath of cold air. She did not need to look to know that her elbow was bleeding. Why was Sheng Lu this woman so strong? The two were not chatting in a hidden place. There were many people in the classroom. When they saw Sheng Lu push Qi Shirshir down, they all came out in surprise. Someone helped Qi Shirshir up. Qi Shirshir hissed in pain. It was obvious that the fall was not light. Sheng Lu. Qi Shirshir's eyes were filled with tears because of the pain. This time it was not an act. It was the real pain. She seemed to be wronged and puzzled. Even if you don't like me, you can just say it. Why did you push me? As soon as she said this, the surrounding people looked at Gu Xingyin with condemnation. Qi Shirshir's good friend Li Jiala looked at Gu Xingyin's cold and indifferent expression. He could not help but get angry. Sheng Lu, you have to give an explanation. What's so great about being a big missy? Can the campus belle casually push people? You have to apologize to our Shirshir. If Gu Xingyin had turned around and left without saying a word like in the original plot, everyone would have thought that he was being arrogant. She smiled bitterly and opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. In the end, she closed her mouth. Then her face suddenly turned pale. Her body trembled a few times and she fainted. Everyone was shocked by this inexplicable turn of events. Moreover, Sheng Lu's condition seemed to be more serious than Qi Shirshir's. Everyone was a student in their 20s. When they saw Sheng Lu faint, they did not know what was going on and quickly called her. Get out of the way. A furious voice came from behind the crowd. Lu Zhongting hurried over from behind the crowd. When he saw Gu Xingyin lying on the ground with a pale face, he was shocked and hurt. Without saying a word, he carefully picked her up. Call a car, he said to the person next to him. Seeing Sheng Lu like this, it was better to go to the hospital directly. It was not until Lu Zhongting disappeared with the woman in his arms that the crowd slowly reacted. At this moment, all eyes were on Qi Shirshir, one of the parties involved. Shirshir, what did you and Sheng Lu talk about? Why did he have such a big reaction? A classmate asked. Qi Shirshir was still throbbing in pain from the fall. She looked at him blankly. I was just asking her about the performance. Looking at the looks of disbelief on the faces of the people around her, Qi Shirshir only felt bitterness in her mouth. It shouldn't be like this. I'm obviously the victim. It should be Sheng Lu, who should be suspected and condemned by everyone. How did it become me? Even Qi Shirshir's best friend Li Jiala whispered to her when he went back. Shirshir, are you jealous of Sheng Lu, so you provoked her? Li Jiala knew that Qi Shirshir liked Yuan Shen. Qi Shirshir felt that she was really wronged. Her fainting really has nothing to do with me. Chapter 294. Lu Zhongting sat quietly in front of the bed and looked at the girl lying on the bed. Her rosy face was only pale at this time, and her usually bright red lips were pale. Lu Zhongting couldn't help but think of the girl he saw in the hot pot restaurant a few days ago. She was so lively and full of vitality. The doctor's examination results came out. There was nothing wrong with the patient's body. Gu Xingyin's situation was very likely that she had suffered a serious psychological trauma in the past. This time, she might have suffered some stimulation that made the patient have a bad association. The doctor left, and Lu Zhongting was alone to look after Gu Xingyin. If he felt that he was only interested in Gu Xingyin before, then the moment he saw Gu Xingyin lying on the ground, the pain and fear in his heart made Lu Zhongting understand that he was clearly moved. Not only was he moved by her, but he was deeply in love with her. It was very strange that he was deeply in love with a girl who he had known for such a short time, and had only seen a few times. Anyone would find it unbelievable, but Lu Zhongting didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it at all. It was as if it was normal for him to be moved by Gu Xingyin. Lu Zhongting thought of his childhood friend, Liang Zimu, who liked some mysterious things. She always liked to mutter about past lives and present lives. Originally, he had never taken it to heart. Now that he thought about it, maybe he and this girl were fated in his previous life and continued in this life? Otherwise, he wouldn't be attracted to her at a glance. When Gu Xingyin woke up, the afterglow of the setting sun squeezed in through the slightly opened curtains and fell on the man in front of the hospital bed, adding a touch of gentleness to his handsome face. "You're awake." Lu Zhongting seemed to be very happy. He saw Gu Xingyin sit up by herself and got up to pour her a glass of warm water. "Is this the hospital?" Gu Xingyin didn't expect Sheng Lu's body to have such a big reaction, but she was still very satisfied with the effect. "Well, you suddenly fainted earlier. I happened to pass by, so I sent you here." Lu Zhongting carefully looked at Gu Xingyin's expression. Sure enough, he clearly saw a trace of pain appear on Gu Xingyin's face, but she quickly regained her composure. "Thank you, Senior Lu," Gu Xingyin said. Lu Zhongting was considerate and did not ask further. Instead, he changed the topic. "I didn't see your phone on you, so I didn't contact your family." Gu Xingyin breathed a sigh of relief. "You don't have to tell them. Don't let them worry about such a small matter." Lu Zhongting didn't say anything. "Senior, I'm fine now. I don't need to stay here anymore." Gu Xingyin didn't like the hospital at all. The doctor had also said that this was her own psychological problem. There was indeed no need for her to stay in the hospital. Lu Zhongting nodded. After leaving the hospital, Gu Xingyin invited Lu Zhongting to a meal. "Senior, don't refuse me. Take it as a thank you gift for taking care of me for the whole day," Gu Xingyin said. Lu Zhongting originally didn't intend to refuse, but when Gu Xingyin chose the Michelin restaurant in the capital, he shook his head. "Let's go to the hot pot restaurant we went to last time," Lu Zhongting said. Gu Xingyin was surprised. "Senior also likes hot pot." Lu Zhongting smiled but didn't say anything. "It's just because that's where I first met you. Moreover, the way you were spicy was very cute." Chapter 295. Gu Xingyin and Lu Zhongting once again sat in the hot pot restaurant next to the school. This time, Gu Xingyin was very self-aware and ordered the medium spicy hot pot. Her mouth still seemed to be aching from the spiciness last time. She didn't dare to court death again. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but when Gu Xingyin chose the medium spicy hot pot, the man opposite her seemed to show a touch of disappointment. A thought flashed in her mind, and she thought of a possibility. Lu Zhongting saw the girl opposite him looking at him indifferently and asked seriously, "Senior, do you like to eat spicy hot pot?" Lu Zhongting was a little confused by this question, but he still shook his head honestly. The two of them were very happy. They began to eat hot pot. "Wow, boss, you're actually secretly dating a beauty here." A fussy voice came from behind the two of them. Then, a white figure quickly rushed to the seat opposite Gu Xingyin, next to Lu Zhongting's seat. Gu Xingyin looked up and saw a boy with a baby face. He looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. His eyes were very big, and he had some baby fat. He was very cute when he smiled. Gu Xingyin wanted to reach out and pinch his face. The boy was obviously stunned when he saw Gu Xingyin. Then, he blushed and looked at her with sparkling eyes. "Sister, you're so beautiful." Gu Xingyin almost choked. She hadn't heard such a straightforward compliment for a long time. "Thank you. You're very cute too," she replied seriously. "Ha ha ha." Lu Zhongting suddenly laughed out loud. Gu Xingyin looked at him with some confusion. In the end, she just happened to meet the baby-faced boy's accusatory eyes. Juniors nowadays are really not cute at all. He muttered and complained for a while, then smiled again. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Liang Zimu, a sophomore in the finance department of the First University. Junior Sheng Lu, you're as beautiful as the rumors say." Liang Zimu looked serious. "Sophomore?" Gu Xingyin looked at Liang Zimu in amazement. If he said that he was a high school student, no one would doubt it. Liang Zimu looked at her expression and knew what she was thinking. She sighed and touched her face with remorse. "Alas, I was born beautiful. I can't do anything if time doesn't let me down." Gu Xingyin was amused by him. She held back her laughter and said, "Senior, don't be sad. I'm sure there will be many senior sisters who will be happy to discuss with you how to maintain their youth." Lu Zhongting suddenly said, "You really know him well. This guy often hung around the female dormitory, seducing female students with his tender face, and even shamelessly calling them big sister. Now his sister at the first university can form a football team. Gu Xingyin looked at him with admiration. Senior is amazing. Junior admires you. Liang Zimu. She felt that this junior was not as pure as she looked. Thinking of this, he looked at Lu Zhongting with hatred. In terms of appearance, who could compare to this sesame seed in front of him? Thinking back, he was confused by Lu Zhongting's clean and bright appearance, and happily ran over to be friends with him. In the end, he had been running errands for more than 10 years, and had never turned over a new leaf. This guy had been pretending since he was a child. He was really bad. He only dared to say this in his heart because Liang Zima knew that if Lu Zhongting heard his evaluation of him, this guy would definitely be thick-skinned and say, "You're overpraising me." Chapter 296. Thus, the hot pot dinner between the two of them became a 3-person dinner. When Yuan Chun and his roommates came in, they saw such a harmonious scene. Sheng Lu was sitting at the same table with 2 guys. She looked very relaxed and even had a slight smile on her face. Yuan Chun suddenly felt a wave of jealousy. Although Gu Xingyin would not ignore her, he would always be indifferent to her. Unlike now where he was obviously very familiar with the two of them. If he knew that Gu Xingyin and the two of them had not known each other for a long time, and that one of them had just met, he would probably be even more jealous. When he recognized who one of the 2 men was, his jealousy swelled even more. Lu Zhongting. Everyone in the finance department knew him. Yuan Chun himself could be considered to be doing well in the department. However, he was only a little famous among the freshmen. Lu Zhongting's name was not only well known in the finance department, but also in the entire first university. Several of his published papers were on the front page of the top financial magazines in the country. It was said that when he was in his first year, many big companies were willing to sign contracts with him. In short, Lu Zhongting was a legendary figure in the first university. Yuan Chun could not compare to him. Lu Zhongting did not ignore the gaze that fell on him. He noticed the hostility in Yuan Chun's eyes and raised his eyebrows. This Yuan Chun was the one who was photographed chatting happily with Sheng Lu on the forum, right? But, looking at Sheng Lu's appearance, she didn't seem to care much about him. Lu Zhongting looked away. Since Sheng Lu had nothing to do with him, he did not need to waste his time on irrelevant people. On the other side, Yuan Chun's best friend, who was also the one who teased Yuan Chun in the dormitory, also saw Gu Xingyin's table. In fact, all the customers in the restaurant did not ignore their table. After all, the 3 of them were far more good-looking than the average. If it were not for the fact that they were unfamiliar, and the 3 of them were generous, people would have thought that a few celebrities were here to eat hot pot. Yuan Chun's roommate knew that he had feelings for Gu Xingyin, so he poked him. "Hey Yuan Chun, you have to hurry up," his roommate said softly. "Although you're outstanding, girls like Senior Lu are the most attracted to people like you." From the looks of it, it was obvious that they were just acquaintances, and had yet to develop a deeper relationship. Otherwise, there would definitely be news from the school. Don't blame me for not reminding you when the time comes. When it's time to strike, you must do it as soon as possible. Yuan Chun gulped down a mouthful of beer without saying a word. Gu Xingyin and the others had arrived earlier, so Yuan Chun and the others left after a short while. "Where do you live? I'll send you back," Lu Zhongting said. Gu Xingyin said, "No need, I'm close." Lu Zhongting frowned. "No, it's late at night. It's not safe for a girl like you." Liang Zimu looked at the 2 of them with a sour tone. I'm such a weak and cute little boy. It's not safe to go back at night. Why don't any of my best friends care about me?" Lu Zhongting ignored him and followed Gu Xingyin forward. "Goodbye, Senior Liang." Gu Xingyin politely said goodbye to him. Liang Zimu was stunned. She actually dumped him just like that. Chapter 297. Lu Zhongting, who had successfully gotten the address he wanted, returned to school in a good mood, completely forgetting about his weak and cute best friend. When Gu Xingyin arrived at school the next day, she received a lot of concern from her classmates. After all, when she was carried out yesterday, she did look a little scary. "Thank you everyone. I'm much better now." I'm fine. She thanked them generously. Although there was still no expression on her face, it was obvious that she was sincerely grateful. Those classmates suddenly felt that Gu Xingyin was not as arrogant as she usually was. Perhaps she was just not good with words. Qi Shishir looked at Gu Xingyin, who had easily gained the favor of her classmates, and suddenly asked, Sheng Lu, what happened to you yesterday? Why did you suddenly push me away with so much strength? Her words made the surroundings quiet down. Everyone remembered that Gu Xingyin had pushed Qi Shishir away and fainted yesterday. They were also curious about what had happened. Gu Xingyin's face turned slightly pale when she heard this. Just when everyone was worried that she would faint again, she tried to remain calm. I was wrong yesterday. I'm sorry, Qi Shishir. I will compensate for your medical expenses. Although she said this, everyone could see that her condition was not right. Everyone was even more suspicious about this matter. Qi Shishir stood up and fell backwards. Sheng Lu's words seemed to be taking all the blame on herself, but those who were present that day could see that Sheng Lu's condition was obviously more serious. Her words only made people more curious about what had happened. Moreover, people would subconsciously sympathize with the weak and be biased towards Sheng Lu. Qi Shishir gritted her teeth in her heart. I thought she was really an arrogant and otherworldly lady, but I didn't expect her to be such a black-hearted person. After this incident, Gu Xingyin successfully made her image more approachable. Although she was not as popular as Qi Shishir, nothing would happen. There would not even be anyone who would stand up to speak up. In the afternoon, she still had a class with Yuan Chen. After class, Yuan Chen suddenly called out to Gu Xingyin from the corner of the corridor. What's the matter? Gu Xingyin asked. Yuan Chen thought of her roommate's words and felt that it made sense. For some things it was better to strike first. Sheng Lu, I have something to say to you. Yuan Chen looked at Gu Xingyin's clear eyes and felt a little nervous. Do you have a boyfriend? He asked. Gu Xingyin shook her head. Yuan Chen was overjoyed. Just as he was about to continue, Gu Xingyin beat him to it. I'm sorry, Yuan Chen, but I don't have any plans for that at the moment. Yuan Chen felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. How could he be unable to discern that this was actually a disguised form of rejection? However, looking at Gu Xingyin's cold face, his heart was rekindled with hope. She didn't say that she didn't like him, but that she didn't want to think about these things now. Did this mean that his confession would be rejected, and so would others? If that was the case, he still had hope. Gu Xingyin did not know that Yuan Chen's heart was burning with fighting spirit again. She nodded and left. Then, when she turned the corner, she saw a man standing there. Lu Zhongting was holding a thermos in his hand. When he saw her, he smiled and said, It seems that I came at the wrong time. Chapter 298. Gu Xingyin looked at the man's calm face and couldn't see anything unusual. If it were others, they would definitely think that he was as calm as he looked. However, Gu Xingyin, who knew men well, knew that Lu Zhongting was jealous at this moment. This man's possessiveness of her had always been terrifying. She seemed a little embarrassed. No, it's nothing. I'm sorry for making a fool of myself in front of you. Lu Zhongting handed over the thermos in his hand. I made the soup to nourish your body. He said, It's normal for young people to be attracted to women. How is this a joke? Gu Xingyin pretended to be shy. How can I accept this? Lu Zhongting frowned and looked unhappy. I thought we were friends. Are you going to reject a small gift from a friend? Sheng Lu laughed secretly. It was hard for him to think of such a reason, but she had to accept it. She suddenly remembered Lu Zhongting's words and asked in surprise, Senior, you made it yourself? Lu Zhongting nodded naturally. The ingredients outside are not necessarily fresh. It's better to make it yourself. Lu Zhongting sent her all the way home again. When Gu Xingyin got home, she opened the soup Lu Zhongting made for her. The fragrance instantly filled the whole room. It tasted great. This was the feeling Gu Xingyin had after taking a sip. After thinking for a while, she took out her phone and sent a message to Lu Zhongting. The soup is delicious. Thank you, Senior. Lu Zhongting's reply came quickly. It's good that you like it. Gu Xingyin seemed to be able to see the gentle smile of the man on the other side of the phone. She put down her phone and thought about the mission in this world. Yuan Shen had already confessed to her. So no matter what unwillingness or regret the original Shenglu had, it was already considered complete. Qi Shishir's plan to ruin Shenglu's reputation had not been realized. Next, as long as she lived a stable life according to Shenglu's original trajectory, she would basically complete the mission. Gu Xingyin only felt that the road ahead was very smooth. However, plans could not keep up with changes. Some people, even if they liked to court death, were really helpless. Qi Shishir came to find her again. This time, she didn't dare to get close to Gu Xingyin. After all, the place where she fell last time was still bruised. What's the matter? Seeing that Qi Shishir's hatred towards her had reached 60%, Gu Xingyin wasn't particularly surprised. Anyway, after experiencing so many worlds, Gu Xingyin was already used to the inexplicable hatred that the supporting female characters had for him. She just doesn't like you. No matter what the female lead does to you, she will hate you even more. Qi Shishir seemed to be a little embarrassed. It's still about the performance. Didn't you rejected last time? But I didn't know why the department. SS after that she. S's. She Coopers. T-test T be changed it be. SS. S it teat. S. It's it. That's why I came to inform you. She comforted Gu Xingyin. Actually, Shenglu, you don't have to be too nervous. It's just a formality. When the time comes, you can just perform something. If you really can't, you can sing a song. Since she had already said this, if Gu Xingyin didn't agree, it would seem that she wasn't magnanimous. Chapter 299. She looked at Qi Shishir. Gu Xingyin did not believe that Qi Shishir had not done anything. Gu Xingyin smiled faintly and said, "If I remember correctly, this list of names needs to be reviewed and approved by you, the Minister of the Ministry of Arts." Qi Shishir's face flashed with embarrassment. She forced a smile and said, "I was not feeling well a few days ago. Someone else is in charge of the arts department, so I'm not sure what's going on." After saying that, she didn't wait for Gu Xingyin to reject her again, and hurriedly said pitifully, "Please Shenglu, you're so famous that it's impossible to find someone to replace you. For the sake of our foreign languages department, I'll have to trouble you this time." Qi Shishir's thoughts were actually very good. Shenglu had been in the first university for so long, but there were no rumors of her having any artistic talents. In her heart, students were all young and impetuous. If they had any talent, they would be eager to show it to show that they were multi-talented. For example, many freshmen knew that Qi Shishir, the belle of the foreign languages department, was not only good in her studies, but also good at classical dance. Many students in the arts department were ashamed of their inferiority. After Qi Shishir left with a satisfied face, Gu Xingyin laughed softly. It seemed that Qi Shishir wanted to make her, the campus belle, lose face in the performance. If Gu Xingyin really did as she said, and just performed casually, the next day, the rumor that the belle of the foreign languages department could beat the campus belle would probably spread. What a pity. Gu Xingyin was in a good mood. "I'm afraid I can't let you get what you want." Qi Shishir was indeed very happy. She did not know if Shenglu did it intentionally or not, but she actually chose modern dance. When it came to dancing, Qi Shishir was still very proud. Compared to those real professional dancers, she was quite confident in her dancing skills. Since the campus belle also chose dance then, senior, the list is out. She handed over a document. "Oh, Junior Shenglu is also dancing?" The person who was addressed as senior hesitated for a moment. "It's not good to put both of your programs together, right?" After one dance, another dance follows. Qi Shishir smiled and said, "I'm dancing classical dance, while Shenglu is dancing modern dance. It's two completely different experiences." The senior thought about it and didn't say anything. He just nodded. Seeing this, Qi Shishir smiled even more happily. Not only are the two completely different experiences, but you can also compare the advantages and disadvantages, right? Gu Xingyin listened to the system's report and sighed. Really, everyone should live peacefully. After a few years, I'll go my own way and you'll go your own way. Isn't that good? The system was curious. "Host, what kind of dance are you planning to perform?" Gu Xingyin replied. Didn't I report it? Waltz. The system said. Oh, the host is looking for your lover again. Gu Xingyin smiled and praised it, so smart. Gu Xingyin called Lu Zhangting. Lu Zhangting listened to the girl's voice on the phone. Senior, can I trouble you with something? Go ahead. I'm planning to dance a waltz at the cultural performance. Can I invite you to be my male partner? The girl's voice sounded a little embarrassed. Lu Zhangting did indeed smile when he heard this. Although she did not have any romantic feelings for him, he was the first person she thought of when she encountered this kind of thing. This was a good start, wasn't it? Chapter 300. Since they were going to dance, the two of them would inevitably spend more time together. Lu Zhangting expressed his willingness to do so. It just so happens that Liang Zimu opened a dance studio by himself. Let's go to his place. Lu Zhangting called Liang Zimu. Since his friend needed it, Liang Zimu immediately said, If you like one of the VIP areas on the 3rd floor, just use it. Senior, you should have a foundation in dancing, right? Gu Xingyin asked. Lu Zhangting nodded. For children from families like them, waltz was an essential part of social etiquette. Of course, they had to practice it since they were young. Then let's try it first. Gu Xingyin played a soothing song, got up, turned her head, and changed her footsteps. Today Gu Xingyin was wearing a snow-white dress. When she moved, the hem of her dress fluttered with her movements. She looked like a butterfly that was happily wandering among the flowers. Lu Zhangting looked at the girl who was dancing on her own. Because of her movements, a faint blush appeared on her face, which lightened her somewhat cold expression and added a bit of charm and gentleness to it. The thin tip of her shoes gently touched the ground. Drawing a round arc little by little, she entered his territory. Lu Zhangting suddenly retracted his gaze and greeted her. Their eyes met unexpectedly, and then they retreated. Their hands were intertwined, their bodies touched, and even their breaths were connected. Hardness and softness touched, elegance and passion burst forth. It was the first time the two of them danced together, but they were compatible as if they had practiced it countless times. Every dance step, every look, contained the feelings of each other. When the music stopped, the two of them hugged each other quietly for a while before letting go. Lu Zhangting pulled himself out of the soul-shaking feeling just now. He suddenly thought of something and looked at Gu Xingyin. You don't dislike my touch? With his ability, since he was interested in Gu Xingyin, of course, he would not let go of anything related to her. 3 days after Gu Xingyin inexplicably fainted last time, he found out the reason for her fainting. They had a psychological aversion, rejection, and even fear of contact with strangers. What exactly happened back then could not be found because of old Master Sheng's intervention, but Lu Zhangting could roughly guess. His heart ached for Gu Xingyin, but at the same time, he had a huge surprise. When the two of them danced together just now, Gu Xingyin did not show any discomfort or rejection of the task from the beginning to the end. Did this mean that she had already accepted him from the bottom of her heart? Gu Xingyin also remembered the illness of this body. In fact, Sheng Lu's illness was a psychological illness. As long as she could overcome it, it was not a big deal. Now that it was Gu Xingyin, this problem was naturally solved. At this moment, looking at the happy man, Gu Xingyin felt that there was no need for her to explain. To her, he was the most special person, wasn't he? I don't know either. I don't feel uncomfortable when I touch you, she said softly with her eyes lowered. Lu Zhangting was overjoyed. He recalled the dance steps just now and said, It seems that Junior and I are really fated. I have never danced so happily with other girls. Chapter 301. Of course, he said this because his female partner was Gu Xingyin, but it was the truth. There had never been a dance partner who could give him such a feeling. He had never felt that kind of harmony and passion from anyone else. Gu Xingyin was also quite satisfied with the previous effect. They were indeed soul mates who had accompanied each other for several worlds. The tacit understanding between the two was simply engraved in the depths of their souls. After the dance, she knew that it would be easy for them to steal the limelight at the literary performance with this dance. Her dancing skills were definitely at the professional level, and Lu Zhangting could keep up with her, which meant that his foundation was also very good. To put it bluntly, Qi Shishir's dancing was actually at this level. But she had been praised too much. This time I've troubled Senior. I'll treat you to dinner tonight as a thank you gift, Gu Xingyin said. In fact, if Lu Zhongting was not her lover, she would be embarrassed. After all, he was the Prince Charming of the first university. She had never heard of him performing in public before. To a certain extent, Gu Xingyin could be considered to have taken his first time. Lu Zhongting did not stand on ceremony with her. After that, Lu Zhongting mentioned that there were still nearly 2 months before the literary performance. Although the two of them had a tacit understanding, dancing did indeed require frequent practice. In the end, the two of them decided to come here twice a week to practice. A long time later, every time Liang Zimu thought of this matter, she would say to the two of them who had already become husband and wife, "The two of you owe me a big red packet. If I hadn't provided the venue, how could the two of you hook up so quickly?" Qi Shishir had not come to look for her during this period. She was probably waiting for the literary performance to slap her in the face. However, Gu Xingyin was no longer prepared to sit and wait for her to come to her like before. She had always been passive and resisting, but this time, she wanted to experience the joy of taking the initiative to attack. Qi Shishir's advantages: connections, personality, family background, and appearance. Gu Xingyin expressed that Sheng Lu could completely throw Qi Shishir off for the latter 2 points. As for the first 2 points, she could take it slow, right? One day, Gu Xingyin was studying in class. She suddenly invited the whole class, including the counselor, to her birthday party. Her words shocked everyone. One had to know that Sheng Lu didn't even have a close friend in class, let alone invite others to the banquet. Before they could react, Gu Xingyin continued, "I know that my personality isn't very good. Actually, I also want to make friends. When I see you guys talking and laughing together, I also want to be with you guys. But I don't know what to do. Can you guys give me a chance to be with you guys?" In the face of Gu Xingyin, no one dared to say no. When the parents of the Sheng family heard that she was going to invite her classmates to her birthday party, they were pleasantly surprised. Especially Sheng Lu's parents. They had always been worried sick about their daughter's loneliness. This time, when they heard that she was willing to start dating her classmates, they were especially enthusiastic about this banquet. Therefore, Gu Xingyin's classmates were lucky enough to see what a real rich family was like. The wealth of the Sheng family was not only reflected in material things. The most amazing thing was the guests at Gu Xingyin's birthday party. Although she was just a junior, Grandpa Sheng's love for this granddaughter was well known in the circle. Therefore, when the students saw some of the faces that often appeared on the news, they were stunned. Chapter 302. All in all, after this birthday party, Sheng Lu's reputation in the first university was once again fiercely spread. In the past, everyone had only heard various rumors that her family background was good, but most people did not have much of an idea. However, this time, everyone knew that she was indeed a real Missy with an extremely illustrious background. Compared to her, those rich second-generation heirs who usually flaunted their wealth in a high-profile manner were really nothing. Gu Xingyin began to have all kinds of people around her. She was no longer as cold and distant as before. Although her temperament was still cold, she had begun to slowly learn to participate in some group activities and get along with everyone. She also had people who would reserve seats for her during class, people who would call her when she was eating, and people who would take the initiative to help her apply for leave when she had something to do. Sheng Lu's frequency in everyone's conversations was increasing, and the evaluation was getting better and better. Everything was developing according to Gu Xingyin's expectations. Qi Shishir only felt that everything had changed. She knew that Sheng Lu liked Yuan Shen. Once, she was taking a nap on a small garden swing in the library. That place was relatively hidden, and ordinary people standing outside would not be able to notice it. When she woke up, she saw a very beautiful girl staring in front of her in a daze. The longing and love in her eyes were not concealed at all. Qi Shishir was curious about which boy could win the favor of such a beauty when she saw a familiar back. Yuan Shen. He was also the person she liked. She suddenly felt a sense of crisis in her heart. Later, she found out that this exceptionally beautiful girl was called Sheng Lu, a cold and arrogant beauty. No one knew that this cold beauty secretly liked Yuan Chun, who many girls liked. After knowing Sheng Lu's elective course, she was even more determined to have this idea. At first, after Qi Shishir understood Sheng Lu's character, she was not very worried. Because of Sheng Lu's character, she was destined not to be liked. However, she could not help but use a little trick, because Gu Xingyin's appearance was too unsettling. Only by completely eliminating her would she be able to breathe a sigh of relief. However, Gu Xingyin was very abnormal recently. Qi Shishir thought that she seemed to have changed into a different person. She had become more popular than before. Those classmates, who were obviously closer to her in the past, now kept talking about Sheng Lu. The one who made her the most uneasy was Yuan Chun. Yuan Chun did not hide his interest in Sheng Lu. It was almost an open secret that he was pursuing Sheng Lu. Although Sheng Lu had always acted bluntly in front of Yuan Chun, Qi Shishir had always thought that she was just putting on an act for the sake of being reserved. Qi Shishir was a little anxious. She began to appear in front of Yuan Chun frequently. Even Yuan Chun's roommates noticed something. The famous flower of the foreign languages department seemed to be interested in Yuan Chun. "Not bad, you brat." He seduced the girl and made her move. Yuan Chun laughed and scolded. "Don't talk nonsense. Don't you know who I'm chasing?" Even so, he did not explicitly reject Qi Shishir. Being chased by such a beauty greatly satisfied his self-esteem. Anyway, Qi Shishir did not confess, so he pretended not to know. When Gu Xingyin found out about this, she still sighed. These two people, a scumbag and a scheming woman, she had to say that they were quite compatible. Chapter 303. When Gu Xingyin was eating in the cafeteria, that scumbag, Yuan Chun, came to her side. The few girls who were originally with her snickered and looked at each other. They expressed that they were full and quickly left with their lunch boxes. Yuan Chun was quite satisfied with their interest in knowing Sheng Lu. He looked eagerly at Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin clearly showed her disgust this time. "Why are you looking for me?" Yuan Chun was a little confused by her attitude. He did not understand. The two of them clearly got along well before. So why did Sheng Lu become like this now? "What's wrong with you? Do you have any misunderstandings about me?" he asked anxiously. Gu Xingyin looked back at him. "I remember clearly rejecting you, Yuan Chun. I heard the rumors about you and Qi Shishir. I don't accept your feelings. You can find whoever you want. But can you not come to me when you're having an affair with someone else?" Yuan Chun looked at her astonishingly beautiful face with a look of disdain. "People who don't know will misunderstand that I, Sheng Lu, am stealing a boyfriend with someone else." She looked at the lunchbox on the table and lost her appetite. "I'm full. Goodbye." "Wait, it's not like that." Yuan Chun wanted to explain, but Gu Xingyin was too lazy to listen to him. She did not want to have anything to do with these two people. Yuan Chun had nowhere to vent his depression. Qi Shishir, who came to find him in the afternoon, became a vent. "Qi Shishir, please don't come to me in the future." Yuan Chun looked at Qi Shishir. Although he had a smile on his face, Qi Shishir saw a trace of sarcasm in his eyes. "Everyone knows that I'm pursuing your department, Sheng Lu. You're making things difficult for me." Yuan Chun finished speaking and left without looking back. Qi Shishir looked at his back and trembled with anger. "What do you mean by making things difficult for you? It's not like I've been doing this for a day or two. Why didn't you say earlier or later? You just had to come to me after you met Sheng Lu." Yes, many people saw Sheng Lu and Yuan Chun meeting in the cafeteria this afternoon. Of course, Qi Shishir also heard the news from others. When she heard that the two of them seemed to have parted on bad terms, she was very happy. Who knew that Yuan Chun would be so ungentlemanly and vent his anger on a girl like her? Qi Shishir suddenly felt like crying. She walked blankly to a corner of a small garden, sat down, and covered her face with her hands. She thought that for this man, she had betrayed her own heart time and time again, and played tricks to deal with Sheng Lu, who had no enmity with her. But what was the result? In return, he said, "You're making things difficult for me." In the dead of the night, she would despise herself for being like this. However, whenever she thought of Yuan Chun's sunny smile, she would hide this bit of regret in the deepest corner of her heart. She liked him. Even if he clearly expressed his disdain for her, even if he liked another woman, Qi Shirshir still liked Yuan Shen. She liked Yuan Shen so much that she didn't want to blame him. She could only push all the blame onto Sheng Lu. It was all this woman's fault. If it weren't for her, she would be the prettiest and most outstanding girl in the foreign languages department. Yuan Shen would definitely like her. Gu Xingyin couldn't read her mind. Otherwise, she would have said to Qi Shirshir, "Miss, it's an illness that needs to be treated. Also for a man like Yuan Shen, you can take it if you want. I won't take the blame." Chapter 304. Gu Xingyin thought that her previous words were still very hurtful to Yuan Shen, a young man in his early 20s. Yuan Shen hadn't appeared in front of her for a few days, which was enough to prove this problem. Without the third wheel affecting her mood, Gu Xingyin and Lu Zhongting's relationship could be said to have improved by leaps and bounds during this period. For example, Gu Xingyin's address for Lu Zhongting had changed from Senior Lu to Brother Lu, and Lu Zhongting directly abandoned the title of junior sister and called her Lulu. Seeing the way the two got along with each other, people who didn't know would really think that they were a couple who had been in love for many years. However, the two of them didn't know this at all. Of course, Lu Zhongting only felt that Gu Xingyin didn't know. He had always been committed to developing in this direction. He would wait until Sheng Lu got used to the days by his side little by little, and penetrate into her life little by little until one day, she could no longer leave him. "That Yuan Shen didn't come to you, right?" After the dance practice, Lu Zhongting asked. Lu Zhongting said that he must know the movements of his love rival as soon as possible. Gu Xingyin shook her head. "Brother Lu, you are right. This kind of person should be rejected directly." Lu Zhongting chuckled. "In short, I don't think he is worthy of you. Except for him, there would be no other man." He paused for a moment and then said, "If I, Lu Zhongting, like someone, I will give her all my heart so that she won't be doubted at all." Gu Xingyin secretly thought that this man was confessing openly and secretly again. But on the surface, she looked sincere and envious. If Brother Lu likes any girl, she will be very happy. Lu Zhongting showed a meaningful smile. "Is that so? I hope that when the time comes, she will understand my feelings like Lulu." Qi Shirshir had been doing a lot recently. She invited classmates to various gatherings and helped classmates with their daily necessities. In short, she was developing in the direction of a saint. Gu Xingyin could roughly guess some of her thoughts. It was nothing more than wanting to build up her reputation. However, her appearance was a bit too ugly. Gu Xingyin thought that the people in the first university were not fools. Qi Shirshir was already very good in the past. Now it was easy to see that there was some deliberate meaning in it. However, she seemed to be a little crazy. She wanted to let Yuan Shen see her and prove that she was better than Sheng Lu except for her appearance. In this way, Yuan Shen would like her one day. These days, Yuan Shen didn't look for Sheng Lu. Didn't this mean that he didn't like Sheng Lu? She had a great chance, didn't she? However, she couldn't be happy for long. Because in front of the class, in front and Lulu in front of everyone's A's feet. There were more than 400 pairs, 400 of a big, of course, a big, SAA, of a A's, AA's, 2's. Or TSSS and in / of S and Li and to make 2 and. I've thought it through these days. I like you, Sheng Lu. Whether you like me or not, I, Yuan Shen, like Sheng Lu. You don't have to accept me, but I won't give up. After he finished speaking, he ignored the stunned eyes of the crowd and looked at Gu Xingyin expectantly. Chapter 305. Gu Xingyin frowned. In fact, Yuan Shen's behavior really made her a little unhappy. She had always felt that this kind of confession in front of so many people was more or less coercive. If the two of them were in love with each other, it would be fine. In the end, they would have a happy ending, and the onlookers could still give them their blessings. However, what if the person who was confessed to had no feelings for the one who confessed? The one who rejected in public not only had to think about how not to hurt the other person's self-esteem, but also had to be the bad guy in front of everyone's cheers of yes. After pausing for 2 seconds, Gu Xingyin said to Yuan Shen in front of her, "Someone is coming to the next class. Let's go out and talk." Hearing this, A trace of disappointment flashed in Yuan Chen's eyes, but he didn't say anything. The two of them left the classroom. The onlookers knew what Gu Xingyin meant, so they didn't follow them. Yuan Chen, I thought I made it clear last time. I don't like you. Yuan Chen looked straight at her. I also made it clear. Whether you like me or not, I like you. Gu Xingyin was speechless at his logic. I've made it clear. Yuan Chen, I hope you won't disturb my normal life. She got up and left. Gu Xingyin rubbed her eyebrows. She never expected that her previous words not only didn't make him give up, but also made him more determined. Lu Zhongting looked at the phone screen with a gloomy face. There was a clear video on it. It was the scene of Yuan Chen confessing to Gu Xingyin. You cannot accept me, but I won't give up. After a long time, he closed his phone, got up and walked out. Gu Xingyin received a call from a certain man, which was expected. Dance practice. Today. Gu Xingyin thought that he was probably stimulated at this moment, so she was very willing to smooth his hair. The two of them danced 3 songs. When the last song was finished, the two of them maintained the posture of crossing their necks. Gu Xingyin's breath was a little short. The exercise was a little too much. After a moment of silence, Gu Xingyin was ready to leave, but Lu Zhongting had no intention of letting her go. He held Gu Xingyin's waist tightly with one hand and looked up at Gu Xingyin. I saw that video, Gu Xingyin said in her heart, but on the surface she looked confused. What video? Just as she finished speaking, she felt the hand around her waist tighten. That video of Yuan Chen confessing to you. Gu Xingyin looked a little embarrassed. I've made a fool of myself in front of you, but can you let me go first? Lu Zhongting interrupted her faintly. I'm very unhappy. Gu Xingyin. Brother Lu, let's talk nicely. Can you let go of me first? Lu Zhongting stared at her. So Lulu, you have to comfort me. There seemed to be a black question mark above Gu Xingyin's head. Lu Zhongting looked at her still confused look and suddenly smiled. He seemed to sigh. I don't know how long it will take for you to be enlightened naturally. He seemed to have made up his mind with this sentence. Like a soft snowflake, he kissed Gu Xingyin on the corner of her lips. I like you, Lulu. He looked at her deeply, as if he wanted to see from her eyes to her heart. I'll be jealous when I see other men confessing to you. Gu Xingyin's face turned red. She struggled unbearably. Brother Lu, let me go first. Seeing her like this, Lu Zhongting knew in his heart that this girl had no feelings for him. Otherwise, she wouldn't be in this tone. Chapter 306. This time he obediently let go of Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin's face was a little red. After being released by Lu Zhongting, she lowered her head and did not speak. Lu Zhongting looked at her with a smile. You don't hate me when I hug you, right? Gu Xingyin lowered her head and did not speak. Lu Zhongting continued. You don't hate me when I kissed you just now, do you? Gu Xingyin lowered her head even more. Lu Zhongting did not intend to let her go. When I confessed to you, you didn't reject me like you rejected Yuan Chen. He gently reached out his hand and raised Gu Xingyin's head to look at him. Silly girl, you actually like me too, right? Gu Xingyin was actually thinking about what she would do if it were Sheng Lu. She looked at Lu Zhongting with a little confusion. I don't know. After saying this, her eyes suddenly became clear, and her expression returned to its usual calm and composed appearance. Brother Lu, give me 3 days. I admit that I have a good impression of you, but I'm not sure if this good impression can support the heavy weight of love. Her meticulous look made Lu Zhongting want to laugh. Even when it came to love, did he still have such a serious attitude? Okay, 3 days later, I'll wait for your answer. Although he said this, Lu Zhongting already had a card up his sleeve. Then, I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. Lu Zhongting watched Sheng Lu leave calmly, but her somewhat hurried footsteps reflected that her mood was not as calm as she appeared to be. However, in fact, Gu Xingyin's mood was as calm as she appeared to be. In so many worlds, she had heard countless confessions from men. She believed that her lover had feelings for her. Otherwise, he would not be able to meet her in every world and fall in love with her. System, is it possible that one day, he will be like me, remembering the things in every world, remembering me? Gu Xingyin suddenly had some expectations. Although it was already a rare blessing to be able to meet one's lover in reincarnation, after reincarnation, people would always subconsciously want more. She hoped that she wasn't the only one who remembered those beautiful memories. The system replied, strictly speaking, the possibility of this happening is extremely low. A normal human soul wouldn't be able to handle such a huge amount of information. Gu Xingyin retorted, normal humans can't accompany me through world after world, can they? The system was speechless for a moment. It kind of missed the host who was always curious about everything. It was getting harder and harder to fool the hosts these days. The system decided to play dead. Gu Xingyin gritted her teeth as she looked at the ball of white light. 3 days later. I've said it before. You're already causing me trouble. Gu Xingyin frowned at the person in front of him. Yuanqin didn't care at all. He smiled confidently. I have the right to pursue you, don't I? Gu Xingyin thought that it was about time, so she said, but I already have someone I like. You're making it difficult for me. Yuanqin's face was full of disbelief. You don't have to make up such a reason to reject me. She's not making it up. A clear voice came from behind him. Yuanqin turned around and saw a man in a light gray windbreaker walking towards him. The man walked to his side, stopped and looked at him. Junior, you're chasing my girlfriend. Are you provoking me? Chapter 307. Yuanqin seemed to be unable to react to what he had said. He watched as Lu Zhongting ignored him after saying those words. He walked straight to Gu Xingyin's side and held her hand very naturally. Am I late? Gu Xingyin suddenly smiled faintly. No, you're just in time. Not only Yuanqin, but even Lu Zhongting had never seen Sheng Lu smile. When the beauty smiled, it was like a new moon breaking through the clouds. It was as if she was really shrouded in a layer of dazzling light. Lu Zhongting tightened his grip on Gu Xingyin's hand. He was a little unhappy that such a rare scene was seen by another man. Let's go. I've made a reservation at the restaurant. He lifted Gu Xingyin's bag with one hand and held her hand with the other. When they walked past Yuanqin, they nodded slightly at him. Yuanqin watched the two of them walk away in a daze. Of course, he could see that the way the two of them interacted with each other was definitely not deliberately done to deceive him. Gu Xingyin and Lu Zhongting walked out of the school. Does this mean that I passed? Lu Zhongting did not let go of her hand and asked. Gu Xingyin did not speak, but she did not break free of his hand. In any school, there were always some interesting topics. For example, the school belle was in a relationship with a male god. Some people said that Yuanqin did not come to class for 2 whole days. Others said that these days, Qi Shishir often appeared at the door of Yuanqin's dormitory. This girl's feelings for Yuanqin moved many people. Soon it was the day of the performance. Qi Shishir arrived backstage early. She wanted to put on the most exquisite makeup, put on the most beautiful dance costume, and dance the best dance of her life. She wanted everyone to see who was better between her and Sheng Lu. Gu Xingyin watched Qi Shishir quietly from backstage. Her sleeves fluttered gently, and her willowy waist swayed. It was like a gentle breeze, and she was as light as a swan. It was indeed beautiful. After Qi Shishir finished her dance, she listened to the thunderous applause from the audience. When she got off the stage, she looked at Gu Xingyin provocatively. The stage suddenly darkened, leaving only a few faint lights. A familiar light melody slowly sounded, and a white figure glided to the center of the stage. It was Sheng Lu. Her pure white dress fluttered high in the air, like a butterfly that was enjoying itself in the garden. And finally, it happily pounced on its target. She slid into an embrace that had been waiting for her. When the light revealed another person's silhouette, the audience went into an uproar. It was Lu Zhongting, who had never appeared in any performances before. It seemed that the rumors about the campus belle and her idol dating were definitely not a rumor. Adonis' super powerful girlfriend. The two of them, one in black and one in white, had an indescribable tacit understanding and affection between their dance steps. A hug, a hand holding, and a look in their eyes. It was a collision of sparks and tenderness. Even the people below the stage could feel the deep affection and love between the two of them when they looked at them. Looking at their dance, I want to fall in love. Qi Shishir looked at the two of them dancing on the stage, and suddenly felt that her little thoughts were a little ridiculous. It turned out that she could dance so well. It turned out that she didn't like to be flamboyant and show off. Does she know that I'm just like a clown in her eyes? Does she know that I'm just a laughable clown? Also, she looked at the two of them, who were obviously in love with each other, and suddenly had some doubts. Did Xinglu really like Yuanqin? Did she get the wrong person for her little revenge? Chapter 308. This time, not only did the performance not suppress Xinglu as Qi Shishir had hoped, but it also allowed her to be in the limelight. Xinglu and Lu Zhongting also took this opportunity to express their relationship to everyone. The two of them were called the most compatible couple in the first university. Qi Shishir no longer found trouble with Gu Xingyin. Has she thought it through? Gu Xingyin saw that Qi Shishir's hatred for her had inexplicably decreased by a large amount and pondered. The system replied, "Maybe she thinks that you won't steal her boyfriend." Gu Xingyin lazily said, "Because she's worried that I'll steal the person she likes. She used all kinds of tricks on me. Now that she's sure that I won't be a threat to her, does she think that we can live in peace? Now that she's not targeting me, I'm not that kind of person." Gu Xingyin was waiting for an opportunity to repay Qi Shishir. Her popularity in the first university had improved a lot, and she had even joined 1 or 2 clubs. A year had passed, and when Lu Zhongting and Sheng Lu's relationship had deepened, Gu Xingyin finally got the news she wanted. Yuanqin was moved by Qi Shishir. As the saying goes, it's easy for a woman to chase a man, but Yuanqin was obviously a rock that was hard to warm up to. However, no matter how cold and hard a rock was, in the face of an outstanding girl like Qi Shishir, who had been relentlessly pursuing him for such a long time, he would probably be moved. What's more, even the people around Yuanqin couldn't stand it anymore. They all persuaded Yuanqin that he should know how to cherish such a girl, who treated him wholeheartedly. On the second day of Yuanqin and Qi Shishir's relationship, an anonymous document was sent to Yuanqin's mailbox. It contained some things that Qi Shishir had done in secret, including saying bad things about Sheng Lu on some occasions, giving a large sum of money to a beggar to help ruin Sheng Lu's reputation, knowing that Sheng Lu was afraid of being touched by strangers, so they could approach her. And most recently, at the performance, she had added Sheng Lu's name, which was originally not there. She was not the gentle and kind Qi Shishir at all. Yuanqin was furious when he saw it. He immediately called Qi Shishir out, and threw these things in front of her. "Look at it yourself. What have you done?" Yuanqin felt that she had been deceived. Qi Shishir picked up the stack of documents and glanced at them. Her heart skipped a beat. Yuanqin kept staring at her. "Don't you think you owe me an explanation?" Qi Shishir's heart skipped a beat as tears rolled down her cheeks. "Do you think I'm willing? I admit it. I was the one who did it." She suddenly became agitated. She ignored the tears on her face and stared straight at Yuanqin. "But who am I doing all this for? I've been apologizing to Sheng Lu every night. Do you know how tormented my heart has been? I fell in love with you long ago, but you only have her in your eyes. I can't accept it. I envy her. I'm jealous of her. I thought that as long as she wasn't that good, your eyes would fall on me. Yuanqin, it's you. You've turned me into this." Yuanqin never expected that his questioning would receive such a response from Qi Shishir. After venting, Qi Shishir glanced at Yuanqin and ran out with her face covered. Chapter 309. Gu Xingyin watched a big show. I didn't expect Qi Shishir to change the topic. Her ability is getting better and better, Gu Xingyin said to the system. Her words seemed like she admitted her mistake, but in fact, she pushed all the blame to Yuanqin. Ridiculous. Gu Xingyin sneered. Yuanqin is the scapegoat. Is he going to blame himself for being too outstanding and being loved by others? Someone forced Qi Shishir to do such a thing? In this world, there are many people who have a crush but can't get it. How many people are like her and deserve to be called unscrupulous? This woman is quite powerful. I think Yuanqin will fall this time, Gu Xingyin finally concluded. Sure enough, there was no news of the two breaking up in school. Gu Xingyin didn't care much about the result of this matter. She had told Yuanqin about what Qi Shishir had done, and it was just a small repayment. She wouldn't take the initiative to harm others, but she wouldn't be magnanimous enough to forgive those who tried to hurt her. After settling the matter between the two, Gu Xingyin began to fall in love with her lover wholeheartedly. These two people were usually seen from afar but not touched. No one would have thought that the two would be so dazzling after being together. For example, "Master, this green pepper stewed tofu, don't use scallions. Stir-fry a pork shoulder, don't use ginger." The handsome man carefully instructed the chef in the cafeteria. Scallions and ginger were both things that Gu Xingyin didn't like to eat. Another example. "Here." Gu Xingyin handed over a bottle of juice in her hand. She opened a bottle and was about to drink it when Lu Zhongting snatched it away. He turned around and left. After a while, he came back with an identical bottle in his hand. "Here. It's not good for girls to eat too much cold food." Another example. "Senior, you're here to pick up Sheng Lu from class." Many girls in the class were already familiar with Lu Zhongting and greeted him. "Yes." Lu Zhongting nodded. "Hey senior, what are you holding in your hand?" Just then Gu Xingyin walked out. Lu Zhongting took out a jacket from the bag in his hand. "It's raining outside today. It's a little cold." The onlookers thought, "I'm going to eat this dog food." Compared to the two of them, Qi Shishir and Yuan Chen were far less harmonious. This was especially true for Qi Shishir, who had been feeling especially mentally and physically exhausted. Although she didn't break up with Yuan Chen, the things she did were like a thorn in their hearts. Unable to pull it out, he could only watch as it took root and sprouted between him and Yuan Chen, unable to be removed. Therefore, she treated Yuan Chen even more wholeheartedly. She always felt that time would reveal a person's true nature. One day, Yuan Chen would let go of the grudge in her heart. However, she had forgotten that girls needed to be respected, especially by themselves. Only when you think highly of yourself will others think highly of you. Why is it eggplant? Don't you know that I don't like eggplants? I have an appointment with someone in the afternoon to play basketball. You can eat it by yourself later. Yuan Chen glanced at it with some disdain. She turned her head and left after saying that. Qi Shishir looked at the food that she had spent more than half an hour to cook, but it was left alone on the table, without being cherished. It was as if her own heart was being disregarded like this. She was stunned for a long time. Finally, she slowly packed up the things. Chapter 310. When she went out, it was raining outside. Qi Shishir remembered that her umbrella had just been taken away by Yuan Chen. She looked at the rain outside. It was not very heavy, and her roommate was not around, so she simply walked into the rain. If she had not seen Lu Zhongting and Sheng Lu, Qi Shishir thought that perhaps she would not have been so determined to break up. She walked quickly in the rain, and her wet bangs stuck to her face. Qi Shishir did not need to look to know that she looked very embarrassed at this moment. Her clothes were also wet and cold, and she could not help but shiver. The two figures in front of her became clear. Qi Shishir looked at the two of them in a daze. It was obvious that they were a couple. The boy was holding an umbrella and had one hand around the girl's shoulder. The girl was wearing a thick coat and was covered tightly. The boy was afraid that she would be drenched by the rain, so he leaned most of the umbrella in the girl's direction, ignoring his wet shoulder. She was a little envious of the girl, who was treated like a pearl by her boyfriend. What about Yuan Chen? She had even taken away the only umbrella she had brought over, not considering that it was raining outside, and she had to go home later. At this moment, the two of them seemed to be talking about something, and the girl's head turned toward the boy. Only then did Qi Shishir recognize that the person was Sheng Lu. A secret sense of shame surged from the bottom of her heart, and she subconsciously slowed down her footsteps. Qi Shishir felt that she could show her embarrassment in front of anyone except Sheng Lu. She could not show the slightest bit of a bad look in front of this woman. Seeing the two in front of her walk further and further away without noticing her, Qi Shishir finally heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that she felt inferior in front of Sheng Lu. It was precisely because of this inferiority that she had to be strong everywhere and fight for her pride. However, the facts had proven that even if she won against Yuan Chen, so what? Wasn't she still not taken seriously? Qi Shishir did not expect that this matter was not over yet. She did not expect that her embarrassing appearance in the rain was not seen by Xinglu, but by others. Not only was it seen by others, but it was also taken and posted on the forum. The two flowers of the foreign languages department are worlds apart after falling in love. The first picture that came into view was of Qi Shishir standing in the rain with her things in her hands. She was drenched from head to toe. In front of her was Gu Xingyin, who was tightly protected by Lu Zhangting. The anonymous OP also pointed out that at this time, Qi Shishir's boyfriend, Yuan Chen, was sweating profusely in the school's basketball court, not caring that his girlfriend was drenched in the rain. Below was a series of comparison pictures. It could be said that the more blissful Gu Xingyin's life was, the more miserable Qi Shishir's life was. Qi Shishir's mouth slid down. She carefully looked at every picture and every paragraph of text. Although the original poster was exaggerating, she had to admit that the photos in the post were real. Yuan Chen did not take Qi Shishir seriously. At this moment, the phone on the table rang. It was Yuan Chen. Qi Shishir did not know how she felt when she picked up the phone, but she knew that Yuan Chen must have seen the post. In fact, she still had some expectations, hoping that Yuan Chen would say something to her. As long as he realized that he was wrong and was willing to change, Qi Shishir thought. However, Yuan Chen's next sentence shattered all her hopes. Chapter 311. Did you see that post? The person who posted it is from the foreign language department, right? Go find him and ask him to delete the post. Yuan Chen's voice sounded exasperated over the phone. Qi Shishir's smile froze on her face. That's it. She heard her own calm voice. Yuan Chen seemed a little impatient. Then what else do you want? Qi Shishir suddenly felt that she was a fool for still holding on to some hope. Yuan Chen, don't you have anything to say to me? Yuan Chen felt that she was being ridiculous. If you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time to play riddles with you. Qi Shishir did not speak. She put down her phone and placed it on the table. Yuan Chen heard no sound from the other side and waited for a few seconds before hanging up the phone. Qi Shishir locked herself in the dormitory for 3 days. When her roommates felt that something was wrong and were about to tell the counselor, she got out of bed. She took out a new dress from the wardrobe and put on a delicate makeup. Qi Shishir looked at the exquisite and perfect woman in the mirror and went out with her bag. In 3 days, she did not receive a call from Yuan Chen. What's the matter? Yuan Chen looked at Qi Shishir with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Qi Shishir nodded. It's nothing serious. Yuan Chen, let's break up. Yuan Chen's expression froze. You said break up? Yuan Chen felt that he might have heard wrongly. He frowned and looked at Qi Shishir. Are you sick? Qi Shishir's heart was calm. Yuan Chen, you didn't hear wrongly. I, Qi Shishir, am here to break up with you. She paused for a moment. In the end, she could not hold back the anger in her heart. She sneered at Yuan Chen. Do you think I will continue to be a fool and praise you to the heavens? Compare myself to the dust to love you? She sneered. Yuan Chen, you see, when I loved you, I was willing to do anything for you. Now that I don't love you, Yuan Chen, you are nothing in my eyes. She carried her bag and left without looking back. Qi Shishir could not help but cry. This is the last time I cry for him. A tall figure appeared in her blurred vision. Gu Xingyin ordered 2 cups of hot drinks. Thank you, Qi Shishir said in a low voice. Gu Xingyin took a sip and looked at her. You don't have to thank me in a hurry. I just came to see your sorry end. Qi Shishir's eyes widened, as if she was meeting Gu Xingyin for the first time. Why? Are you surprised? Gu Xingyin looked at her. Your gentle, kind, and generous Qi Shishir could do such a thing. She said a few words softly, and Qi Shishir's face turned pale. What Gu Xingyin said was the little trick she had used on Shenglu. Gu Xingyin wanted to see her like this. I'm just here for fun. What's so strange about it? Qi Shishir looked at the calm Gu Xingyin and felt a chill in her heart. With the Sheng family's strength, if they wanted to take revenge on her, in the end, she softened. I'm sorry, Gu Xingyin interrupted her. Don't say sorry. This is not something that can be solved with just an apology. Qi Shishir gritted her teeth. Then what do you want me to do? She was not stupid. Gu Xingyin must have a request for her. Otherwise, she could do whatever she wanted. Chapter 312. Leave the first university, leave the capital, and leave country C. Don't ever appear in front of me again. Gu Xingyin stated her request word by word. This was what she had thought of from the beginning. In the original plot, Sheng Lu was also hurt by love, and left the place she grew up in, never to return. Qi Shishir naturally wanted to experience this feeling. Qi Shishir's face turned pale. Sheng Lu actually meant this? She wanted her to leave the place she grew up in, and go to a completely foreign country? Why? She was somewhat puzzled. Why would she only make such a request? You don't need to ask why. You only need to know that if you do as I say, everything between us will be over. Gu Xingyin gently stirred the drink in her cup with a spoon and said. Qi Shishir understood her meaning. If she did not do as she said, she did not want to imagine Sheng Lu's unfinished words. Can you give me some time? She only had this one request left. Gu Xingyin nodded. 1 month. Qi Shishir was silent for a while. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked at Gu Xingyin. You like this? Does Senior Lu know? If he knew that his girlfriend was not as unworldly and noble as she appeared to be, would he still love you as much as before? Gu Xingyin smiled gently, her tone full of pride. You don't understand him. And you don't understand me. No one and nothing can separate the two of us. When she said this, her eyes flashed with something that moved people. Even when Gu Xingyin got up and left, she still sat there, and did not return to her senses for a long time. Qi Shishir acted quickly. The Qi family was considered a wealthy family, so dropping out of school midway was not a difficult matter for them. Although the Qi family's parents did not understand why their daughter insisted on going abroad to further her studies, Qi Shishir had always reassured them, so they followed her wishes. A month later, Qi Shishir completed all the procedures and left the land that gave birth to her without telling anyone. Under the gaze of her parents, she left the land that gave birth to her. When Yuanchen finally remembered his ex-girlfriend, he found that she had disappeared without a trace. No one knew where she went. Gu Xingyin did not care if he regretted or disapproved of the news of Qi Shishir going abroad. Gu Xingyin lazily leaned into Lu Zhongting's arms and said casually, That day, Qi Shishir asked me if you would feel cheated if you knew that I wasn't as cold and aloof as I seemed on the surface. On the contrary, I would play some tricks. In front of them was a huge floor-to-ceiling window, and the night view of the entire city was reflected in their eyes. Lu Zhongting hugged the person in his arms even tighter. Of course not. Our Lulu, no matter what she looks like, is still my favorite. Gu Xingyin smacked him. You're such a smooth talker. Lu Zhongting smiled. I'm telling the truth. If you can understand the human heart and know how to protect yourself, I'll be more at ease. Otherwise, if he was not by her side, he would have to worry about whether his little girlfriend would be hurt by people with ulterior motives. Gu Xingyin did not speak. She relaxed herself and snuggled up to the man. In fact, she already knew the answer of a lover, didn't she? No matter what you look like, no matter what your identity is. For life, I only want you. Chapter 313. The heroine of this world. Gu Xingyin was shocked after reading the information. The heroine Liang Qinyu was the first daughter of the Grand Tutor of the Kingdom of Qi. She was famous for her beauty. When she was 14 years old, she was betrothed to Qin Yuanzheng, the crown prince of Jinbei Prince. The marriage of the Grand Tutor's mansion was proposed by the old princess of Jinbei Prince, who was the mother of Jinbei Prince and Qin Yuanzheng's grandmother. They were supposed to be a perfect match. However, the Grand Tutor's mansion never knew that Qin Yuanzheng had a childhood sweetheart, Zhang's daughter Mingxu. Therefore, when Liang Qinyu was 16 years old, she was married to Jinbei Prince in a palanquin carried by 8 people. After the wedding ceremony, she was humiliated that her husband left her alone in the room on the wedding night. What was more intolerable was that on the second day of the wedding, when Liang Qinyu was serving tea to the elders according to the rules, she saw her husband, who was supposed to accompany her, come in with a woman in a bright dress. The woman was also in a red dress. Standing beside Qin Yuanzheng, she looked more like the bride of Jinbei Prince than Liang Qinyu herself. Liang Qinyu fainted on the spot. When she woke up, she saw the loving face of the old princess of Jinbei Prince. You are the crown prince's wife that I begged with my old face. I know that Yuanjing has wronged you, but you are already husband and wife. There is nothing that can't be crossed between husband and wife. Don't worry, Zhang's daughter. I have sent her away. I also scolded Yuanjing. Take care of yourself. I am still waiting for you to give birth to a little great-grandson for me. What else could Liang Qinyu say? She endured it, and told herself that she could take it slowly. Eventually, she could win back her husband's heart. She was a perfect wife and a perfect mistress. She took good care of the affairs of Jinbei Prince's mansion. Although her husband, Qin Yuanzheng, was not close to her, he never had concubines or stayed overnight in the red light district. Liang Qinyu thought that as long as she fulfilled her responsibilities as a wife, her husband would fall in love with her sooner or later. However, she did not expect that what she waited for was the news that Zhang's daughter was pregnant. That day, she went to the Guanshan temple to pray for blessings. On the way back, someone stopped her carriage. Madame Zhang's daughter's beautiful face appeared in front of her. Greetings, elder sister. Liang Qinyu sneered on the spot. In terms of status, I'm the wife of North Vanquishing Prince's heir. A second-rank honorary madam. You're just a commoner girl. What qualifications do you have to call me sister? In terms of kinship, you are the heir's cousin. So you should also call me sister-in-law. I don't know if Miss Zhang's family has taught you etiquette? Zhang Mingshu was on the verge of collapsing after hearing those words. Her beautiful face was covered in tears, and she didn't look pitiful at all. Elder sister, why do you have to humiliate me like this? I'm already 2 months pregnant, and will enter the prince's mansion in a few days. It looks like elder sister can't tolerate me anymore? Liang Qinyu was shocked, but she didn't say anything. She just returned to the prince's mansion. She went to the princess consort's room on the spot, and asked about Zhang Mingshu's matter clearly. It turned out that the old princess consort, Cheng Nua, drove Zhang Mingshu away that day because she sent her to a farm. It turned out that her husband came home late every day to work on official business. He never lingered on women because his heart and soul were tied to Zhang Mingshu. It turned out that the North Vanquishing Prince's mansion had already decided to take Zhang Mingshu in before she gave birth to a child. It turned out that all her efforts and hopes to win her husband back were just a joke. The Grand Tutor's mansion was the most upright in the imperial court. Liang Qinyu had been well educated since childhood, and was familiar with etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame. How could she bear such humiliation? That night, she used the 3 feet of white silk to end her life. Chapter 314. After reading the plot, Gu Xingyin asked the system about the current time, and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was not the time for Liang Qinyu, the heroine, to marry him. Now it was the 4th year of Xianda. Liang Qinyu had just become of marriageable age, and there was still 1 year before she married into Prince Jinbei's mansion. After reading the original plot, Gu Xingyin had already come up with a plan to deal with the scumbag couple. Qin Yuanjing, you like your cousin, don't you? I will fulfill your wish. But I don't know if you will still be so happy when I am willing to fulfill your wish. Zhang Mingshu, aren't you wholeheartedly devoted to your good cousin? I'd like to see if he doesn't love you as an orphan. How can you stand in such a dirty place like Prince Jinbei's mansion? She got up slowly. The maid guarding outside the tent heard the movement, and hurriedly lifted the curtain for her. Miss, are you awake? Yes, Gu Xingyin answered lazily. The gauze curtain embroidered with light-colored twining orchids was rolled up, and fixed on both sides. Looking at Gu Xingyin's gradually revealing face, the maid Jinjia held her breath. Even though she grew up with Miss, she still couldn't help blushing every time she saw Mrs. Lazy appearance in the morning. Gu Xingyin did not overlook the maidservant's shocked eyes. He thought that Liang Qinyu must have a pretty face too. Sure enough, the girl in the mirror, although still young, had begun to grow up with a delicate and gorgeous face, which was enough to show that she would be a stunning beauty in the future. Was Qin Yuanjing blind? How could he leave such a beauty alone in an empty room? After freshening up with the maid's help, Gu Xingyin went to greet the elders every day as usual. The old madam of the Grand Tutor's mansion, Liang Qinyu's grandmother, was Ronghua Great Elder Princess. In terms of seniority, She was the grandaunt of the current emperor. She was also a very good friend of the old Princess Jinbei. Mayur, you're finally here. Ronghua, great elder princess, was nearly 60 years old, but she maintained herself very well. Her black hair, which had no white hairs, was meticulously tied into a bun. She wore a set of ruby jewelry the size of a pigeon egg, which showed her nobility. Great elder princess Ronghua had many grandchildren, including 3 granddaughters. Liang Qinyu was the only one she liked the most. Gu Xingyin blinked her eyes and snuggled into her grandmother's arms, acting coquettishly. Isn't you the first one to greet grandmother every day? Great elder princess Ronghua smiled and said, Yes, grandma's Yuer is the most filial one. These words were heard by the second Miss Liang Jinyu, who had just entered. She covered her mouth and laughed. Grandmother, you have so many Yuer. Which Yuer is the most filial? Great elder princess Ronghua was really amused this time. You are so talkative. My Yuer is the most filial. In fact, everyone knew that the Yue mentioned by great elder princess was only Liang Qinyu. Liang Qinyu was the oldest granddaughter in the Grand Tutor's mansion. When she was born, she was named Qinyu, and everyone in the family was used to calling her nickname Yuer. It was not until Jinyu, the second miss of the Grand Tutor's mansion, was born that everyone remembered that the granddaughters of this generation were all named Yu. Could it be that all of them were named Yuer? After a discussion, Liang Qinyu finally became the exclusive nickname of Yuer. The other granddaughters were all called by the second character in their names. Liang Jinyu, the second miss, was called Jin and Liang Linyu, the fourth miss, was called Lin As for the other daughters of concubines, they were not ranked according to this seniority. From this, it could be seen how much Liang Qinyu was favored in the family. Gigi said in the text that the book would be put on the shelves and charged on the 28th. This was specially for readers of QQ Browser, Apple Server and other channels, because the author had something to say and the content couldn't be seen. Today, Gigi saw a comment from a reader in the book review on QQ Browser. Would there be a sudden charge? So I put it here and hope you don't mind me. Chapter 315. Grandma, I want to go out for a walk today. After breakfast, Gu Xingyin told her purpose. Ronghua, great elder princess, had no reason to disagree. After carefully reminding her, she let her go. Gu Xingyin chose to go out today for a reason. After all, she had a cheat system at hand, so she knew the whereabouts of Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingshu clearly. Not only was Gu Xingyin going out today, but she also wanted to take a few more people with her. Elder sister, where are we going to play? Liang Linyu of the second branch was only 10 years old now, which was the age of innocence. She had always liked Liang Qinyu, the beautiful elder sister, and was very close to her. Baotsue Pavilion has a new batch of jewelry. Let's go and have a look today. If you see anything you like, just tell me. Today I will treat you. Gu Xingyin looked at the delicate little girl and said with a smile. Okay. Liang Linyu was very happy. Elder sister, wait for me. I will change my clothes. Gu Xingyin asked people to prepare the carriage, and she sat in the garden of the Liang mansion, waiting for Liang Linyu. But, junior sister apprentice? A hesitant voice suddenly came. Gu Xingyin didn't expect that there was an outsider in this place. She was shocked and hurriedly got up and looked over. Qin Xiao only felt that she looked very cute when she stared at people. Gu Xingyin looked at the handsome man with a smile and instantly understood his identity. The current emperor, Emperor Xianda, Qin Xiao. Greetings, Your Majesty. Gu Xingyin hurriedly bowed. Don't be so polite. Qin Xiao raised his hand and helped her up. I am going out today in casual clothes. Junior sister apprentice, you don't have to be so restrained. He could see that Gu Xingyin seemed to be very nervous. For some reason, he thought of the way she stared at him in shock earlier. His heart softened, and he said with a smile, I've been studying with the Grand Tutor since I was a child, and I'm quite familiar with Junior Sister. Why are we so distant after just a few years? Junior Sister, do you still remember your senior brother Changfeng? Gu Xingyin blinked her eyes, secretly thinking that her luck was not bad this time. Her lover was actually the emperor of this world. She had to hold on tight to this big leg, She could tell that Qin Xiao's words were to show that the two of them were close. Of course, she couldn't refuse his good intentions. Therefore, Qin Xiao could clearly feel that after he said those words, although the girl in front of him didn't say anything, the aura around her relaxed. He heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't know why, but the first time he saw her, he felt that she shouldn't be afraid of him. Just as he was about to say something, Liang Lingyu had already changed into her traveling clothes. Gu Xingyin lowered her head and bowed. She said goodbye and left with Liang Lingyu, who was confused. Qin Xiao was left standing there alone. After a while, he shook his head and smiled. Your Majesty, so you're here? Liang Zhishan, the eldest young master of the Liang residence, asked. I had nothing to do, so I strolled around. Qin Xiao shook his head. He didn't know why, but he concealed the matter of his previous encounter with Gu Xingyin. Speaking of which, Gu Xingyin and Liang Lingyu had already arrived at Baotsue Pavilion. Don't look at the tacky name of this Baotsue Pavilion. There were a lot of good things inside. Even many of the imperial family's nobles liked to come here to choose some good things that they liked. Of course, Gu Xingyin didn't just come here to buy things. She knew that today, Qin Yuanzheng would accompany her good cousin, Zhang Mingxiu, to choose some jewelry and treasures. In the case of an engagement, he actually openly brought another woman to choose jewelry. Gu Xingyin thought, Qin Yuanzheng, your heart is so big. If I don't trick you, who will I trick? I recommend my gay friend Xiao Zhonggui's article, 100 Ways to Quickly Pass Through the Prince Charming. Let's guess, is Zhonggui a strong man or a cute girl? Chapter 316. Sure enough, not long after Gu Xingyin and Liang Lingyu arrived, they received a system notification that Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingxiu were approaching. Soon, Gu Xingyin saw a gorgeous carriage stop at the entrance of Baotsue Pavilion. Then, a woman wearing plain clothes and a veil of the same color came down. Gu Xingyin looked at the woman carefully. She was a little thin, but she had a graceful bearing when she walked. Although he couldn't see her face because of the veil on her face, he could tell that she was a beauty from the pair of eyes that were exposed. Well, if she wasn't a beauty, why would Qin Yuanzheng not even step into the door of his wife's room for her? But she only got down from the carriage alone. Qin Yuanzheng obviously didn't want to enter. Maybe he felt that it was beneath his status to go shopping with his cousin? Gu Xingyin had a guess in her mind, but she shook her head in the end. No matter what the reason was, it had nothing to do with her. She slowly looked at the items in the shop, but her attention was on Zhang Mingxiu. At this moment, Zhang Mingxiu was wearing a jade bracelet on each of her hands. The one on her left hand was green and pure. It was obvious that it wasn't an ordinary item. The one on her right hand was an extremely rare mutton fat white jade. It was flawless and matched with Zhang Mingxiu's fair skin. It was indescribably beautiful. Zhang Mingxiu was comparing her two hands at this moment. Her eyebrows were slightly knitted. She seemed to be troubled about which one to choose. Looking at her expression, it was obvious that she was reluctant to part with either one. The shopkeeper was very perceptive. How could he not see through her thoughts? He smiled kindly. In my opinion, these two bracelets are very suitable for young Mississippi. Young Miss has a fair complexion. You'll look good with either one. Hearing this, Zhang Mingxiu smiled happily. Then I will wrap both of them up. The shop owner made a big order, so he was more attentive to Zhang Mingxiu. Zhang Mingxiu suddenly lifted her foot and walked towards the carriage. She stood beside the carriage and said something to the people inside. Looking at her reaction, she should be very happy. After a while, Zhang Mingxiu returned to the store. The store owner asked her which mansion she was sending the items to. Zhang Mingxiu raised her head slightly and said proudly, I'm from the North Jinbei mansion, but you don't have to send it over. Just put it in the carriage outside. Someone will come to pick it up. I'll keep looking. When the shopkeeper heard this, his expression became even more respectful. At this time, Liang Lingyu suddenly tugged at Gu Xingyin's sleeve and whispered, Big sister, North Jinbei mansion, isn't it because of you? Gu Xingyin glared at her. Liang Lingyu stuck out her tongue and murmured, I've never heard that there is a princess in Lord Jinbei's mansion. Gu Xingyin thought, of course not. But North Vanquishing Prince doesn't have a commandery princess, while North Vanquishing Princess Consort has an extremely precious niece. Zhang Mingxu was being led around by the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper probably wanted to find a topic to compliment Zhang Mingxu. Somehow, he talked about the person in the carriage. I see that you keep looking at the carriage. Is it because your sweetheart is waiting for you? You're so lucky. Zhang Mingxu blushed and didn't refute. Seeing this, the shopkeeper became more excited. I don't know when you will have a good thing. Now I'm here to congratulate you. Although Zhang Mingxu was shy, she was in a good mood because of his compliment. She pointed to several things to wrap up. Gu Xingyin sneered. Zhang Mingxu already knew that Qin Yuanjing had been granted a marriage, and the bride couldn't be her. But she still acted like this, which was really disgusting. Chapter 317. Gu Xingyin thought of something, and slowly walked to the place where Zhang Mingxu was looking at the bracelet. Show me this, she said softly. Her voice was so beautiful that Zhang Mingxu, who was not far away, looked at her. Gu Xingyin pointed at the mutton-fat white jade bracelet that Zhang Mingxu had bought earlier. Because Gu Xingyin was wearing a curtain on her head, the waiter couldn't see her face. However, just by looking at her clothes, although they were not gorgeous, they were all very exquisite, especially the jade buckle on her waist. The waiter could guarantee that she was definitely a person of high status. He took out the mutton-fat jade bracelet eagerly. Then everyone saw that the lady stretched out her hands that had been hidden in her sleeves. Liang Qinyu's appearance was incomparably beautiful. However, the most amazing thing about her was not her face, but her snow-white, translucent and flawless skin. So when she stretched out her hands and put them next to the bracelet was still the same bracelet, but everyone felt that it had changed. It was not white enough, not translucent enough, and not flawless enough. In short, it was not worthy of those precious hands. Even the waiter had an impulse to stop the customer from putting on the bracelet. When the bracelet was put on the hands, it was like a shadow suddenly appeared in the flawless sea of snow. Sure enough, Gu Xingyin picked up the bracelet and looked at it. She shook her head gently. The color of this bracelet is not good. Shopkeeper, do you have a better one? The waiter secretly complained in his heart. This mutton-fat white jade bracelet is already the best in our shop. It is obvious that the customer's skin is too beautiful and flawless, but she blames the color of the bracelet for not being good enough. The waiter didn't read many books, so he couldn't think of any more compliments. Seeing Zhang Mingxu's obviously ugly face, Gu Xingyin had achieved the effect of slapping her face. She saw the waiter hesitate and smiled. Well, I was just asking casually. You go ahead. I'll take a look myself. At this moment, Zhang Mingxu had already walked towards the carriage. From the carriage, a blue-robed young master came down. When Gu Xingyin looked over, she could only see a back view. Soon after, Zhang Mingxu entered the carriage, and the curtains were lowered. At this time, the two madams not far from them spoke. One of the ladies, who was wearing a royal blue robe, said doubtfully, I think that person seems to be the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince. The lady beside her nodded. That's right. The one who spoke earlier was puzzled. Wasn't the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince betrothed? Could that person just now be the young miss of Grand Tutor Liang's estate? Another madam smiled and said, How is that possible? The Grand Tutor's residence is famous for its family's integrity. How could Miss Liang casually board another family's carriage? Her tone suddenly became sarcastic. Men, you know, who doesn't have a few close female friends? Anger flashed across the face of the lady in the royal blue robe, but it eventually turned into a sigh. What a pity. The young misses of Grand Tutor Liang's Fu Mansion are all good, but I didn't expect that. Hearing their words, Liang Lingyu's face had already turned pale. Big sister, the crown prince of North Vanquishing Prince they mentioned? Liang Lingyu looked at Gu Xingyin in disbelief. Gu Xingyin's face was also not very good. I'm going to ask him. Liang Lingyu was still young and spoiled at home. Of course, she could only think of the simplest way at this time. Gu Xingyin hurriedly pulled her. This would certainly make the mansion of North Vanquishing Prince lose face. But in this way, Liang Qinyu's reputation would also be ruined. Let's go back and tell grandmother, and wait for her to make a decision. I'm addicted to tweets today. I recommend my close friend Naylan Mo's article Fast Transmigration Strategy, A Girl's Companion. The person is very cute, and the article is even cuter. Chapter 318. After this incident, the two sisters were not in the mood to continue shopping, so they got on the carriage and went back home. Liang Lingyu ran to the courtyard of Great Elder Princess Ronghua as soon as she got back. Gu Xingyin was afraid that her sister's outspoken words would annoy her grandmother, so she followed her in a hurry. Is what your sister said true? Great Elder Princess Ronghua was trembling with anger. Gu Xingyin felt a little embarrassed, but she still nodded while biting her lips. Great Elder Princess Ronghua pounded the table angrily. What a North Prince's mansion! What a bastard Qin Yuanzheng! She even scolded the bastard, which showed how angry Great Elder Princess was. She ordered the chief maid beside her. Go and call the first madam here. The first madam she mentioned was the wife of Grand Tutor Liang Qinyu's mother Meng. Meng came quickly, but before she had time to greet, she was stopped by her mother-in-law and told her what Liang Lingyu had told her. Meng's family was naturally very prominent, since she was chosen as the daughter-in-law by Great Elder Princess at that time. She was the legitimate daughter of Lord Protector, and the younger sister of Meng Qikong, the current Lord Protector. Meng's reaction was similar to that of Great Elder Princess, who was furious after hearing this. What happened next was not suitable for Liang Lingyu, a little girl, to know. After repeatedly warning her not to tell others about it, Great Elder Princess Ronghua and Meng began to discuss how to deal with it. Gu Xingyin was left in the courtyard. According to Great Elder Princess, this matter was originally related to her. Moreover, she was so old that she had to learn some things that she should know slowly. Meng sent someone out to inquire about the news on the same day. 3 days later, Great Elder Princess and Meng's faces turned blue when they heard the news. Eating at the same table and eating together since childhood? The servants of North Prince's mansion all treat her as the princess consort? Harmony between the zither and the zither? Good. Very good. Great Elder Princess Ronghua's hands were shaking. Come on, take my court dress. Great Elder Princess Ronghua said sternly. Great Elder Princess Ronghua, in full makeup, went to the palace to pay her respects. At the same time, Mrs. Meng didn't stay idle. She dressed up and paid a visit to the North Vanquishing Prince's mansion. Great Elder Princess Ronghua said that she was going to the palace to pay her respects. But in terms of seniority in the palace, who could accept her salute? The present emperor had not yet married, so she went to the Empress Dowager's palace. Even the Empress Dowager had to address her as auntie. As soon as Great Elder Princess Ronghua entered the palace, Empress Dowager got the news and came out to greet her in person. Unexpectedly, as soon as they met, Great Elder Princess Ronghua directly knelt down and began to cry. The Empress Dowager was a little confused by this and hurriedly asked someone to help Great Elder Princess up. It took her a while to figure out what had happened. North Jinbei Mansion is actually such an unruly family? The Empress Dowager couldn't believe it. How could there be a young mistress in the manor before the mistress had even entered the manor? Aunt, don't worry. I will make the decision for you. The Empress Dowager comforted Great Elder Princess Ronghua with kind words, and then ordered people to invite the emperor to come up. After all, this marriage was personally decreed by His Majesty. No matter what decision was made, it would not be good to go against His Majesty. Hearing that the Empress Dowager invited him, Qin Xiao, who had always been filial, hurried over. After hearing what had happened, somehow, the first thing that came to Qin Xiao's mind was the pair of black and round eyes he saw in the back garden of the Grand Tutor's mansion that day. Chapter 319. At that time, he thought that whoever was lucky enough to marry such a young girl would definitely dote on her for the rest of his life. But he didn't expect that such a thing would happen in Prince Jinbei's mansion. However, he also knew that if this kind of thing was really made public, it would also be a big blow to the Grand Tutor's mansion and her reputation. I will issue an edict to reprimand Prince Jinbei for not managing the family well. Great aunt, please take care of yourself, he finally said. Great elder Princess Ronghua's crying was more of an act than an expression of her true feelings. At this time, she got the result she wanted, so she no longer insisted. At the same time, Madame Meng was sitting in the hall of Prince Jinbei's mansion. Madame Meng, what brings you here? Although Princess Jinbei was surprised that Madame Meng dressed so carefully and came uninvited. After all, Grand Tutor was trusted by His Majesty, and Madame Meng was the future in-law, so she still smiled. Madame Meng gently picked up the teacup in front of her with her hand and gently touched it a few times, but she didn't drink it in the end. I don't dare to accept your kindness, but I heard that there is a young lady in the mansion who grew up with heir of Prince Jinbei. Can I meet her? Madame Meng said lightly. Hearing Madame Meng mention Zhang Mingshu, Princess Jinbei's face was obviously unnatural. Hearing Madame Meng's words, she smiled and said, Madame Meng, you are talking about my niece Zhang Mingshu. I pity her for losing her parents at a young age, so I took her in and raised her. Why do you know her, Madame Meng? Madame Meng gently put the teacup back on the table. Although her movement was not big, the teacup still made a clink sound. Madame Meng said with a faint smile, I didn't know, but a few days ago, when I was out on business, I happened to see heir of Prince Jinbei being intimate with a woman in white. Others even called her Madame, which scared me. Her expression turned cold. I never knew that my Liang Mengshi had a daughter like that. Princess Jinbei's face finally changed. She never expected that her son would be so unscrupulous outside. In the capital city, there were many people who knew the marriage between Prince Jinbei's mansion and Grand Tutor's mansion. If he was not careful, he would easily be exposed. She forced a smile and said, There must be some misunderstanding. Mrs. Meng didn't give in. Then please explain to me. What's the misunderstanding? Suddenly, a delicate voice came from outside the door. I heard that there are guests. Lady Meng raised her head and saw a graceful figure in white walking towards them. Her face was like a hibiscus, her brows were like willow leaves, and her lips were like cinnabar. She was indeed a rare beauty. Mrs. Meng looked at her clothes and had an idea. So this must be the famous Miss Zhang? Madame Meng asked. Zhang Mingshu was a little curious. I'm Zhang Mingshu. May I know who Madame is? Madame Meng smiled meaningfully. I'm the mistress of Grand Tutor Liang's mansion. I wonder if Miss Zhang knows who I am? Zhang Mingshu's face turned pale. Of course, she knew what kind of place Grand Tutor Liang's residence was, and she also knew who this madam was. The mother of his cousin's future wife. Seeing her on the verge of collapse, and the distressed look in North Consort's eyes, Lady Meng knew what was going on. He sneered. Not wanting to see their faces anymore, he got up and left. Chapter 320. As soon as the Meng family left, North Prince's mansion received an imperial edict from the palace. The imperial edict was issued by the Empress Dowager, and the content was nothing more than that North Prince's mansion was not strict enough, and the internal affairs were in chaos. The eunuch recited a lot of things, and finally pointed to the two nannies with serious and rigid faces behind him. These two are old nannies in the palace. They were specially sent by the Empress Dowager to help you, Princess Consort. When the old princess got the news, the eunuch in the palace had already gone back to report. After listening to her daughter-in-law's story, how could she not understand the whole story? Maybe the Liang's mansion knew about Zhang Mingshu's matter, and specially came to make her daughter proud. She asked the princess, What are you going to do about it? The princess hesitated for a moment. Raise the two nannies. The old princess interrupted her. I'm asking you, Zhang Mingshu, what are you going to do? The princess looked pleading. Mother, Mingshu is still young. You are so silly. The old princess stomped the ground with her crutch. The imperial edict has come from the palace. Don't you see that it is the superior who is helping the Liang's mansion? At this time, Zhang Mingshu can't stay in the mansion anymore. Tomorrow, no, today, arrange for her to be sent away. Tomorrow, you come with me to the Grand Tutor's mansion to apologize. The princess looked dissatisfied. Mother, we are the North Prince's mansion anyway. Why do we have to do this? The old princess glanced at her stubborn daughter-in-law and felt that she was really blind at that time. North Prince's mansion. Do you think we are still as glorious as when the late king was still alive? Now the Liang's family is an important minister of the emperor. Otherwise, why would I give up my face to marry the daughter of the Liang's mansion for Yuanzheng? Your Highness, I got the news that Zhang Mingshu has been secretly sent away by North Prince's mansion. Great Elder Princess Ronghua nodded with satisfaction. Fortunately, North Prince's mansion is not too silly. Otherwise, my Yuer will never marry into that kind of place, even at the risk of my reputation. The next day, the old princess of North Prince's mansion came in person with her daughter-in-law. The two families were happy and harmonious, and no one could tell that they were at daggers drawn the day before. Gu Xingyin was amazed. She was quite satisfied with the results this time. Gu Xingyin didn't expect to cancel the marriage between the two families at once. Not to mention that the marriage between the two families was granted by the emperor. The matter between Qin Yuanzheng and Zhang Mingshu was not a big deal in the eyes of these people. Which man wouldn't like a young and delicate body? Zhang Mingshu had no status and was not pregnant. She was equivalent to a plaything. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the two families would not fall out with each other. However, Gu Xingyin didn't want to enter the Prince Jinbei's mansion again. There's still a year left. You two, there's still plenty of time. She didn't know that Qin Yuanzheng hated the Liang residents because of this. He felt that if it wasn't for the Liang estate going too far, why would he be separated from his cousin? Gu Xingyin had always despised such people to the core. What did he think of Zhang Mingshu by doing this? In the last life, if Liang Qinyu hadn't died, Zhang Mingshu would have been at most a concubine. Was this the so-called love of this man to let his beloved woman be a lowly concubine? It was really great. Perhaps Zhang Mingshu's love for him was also so great. However, even if it was such a love, she didn't want them to have it. Chapter 321. Qin Yuanzheng was currently drinking alone. He was in a very bad mood. Anyone would be in a bad mood if they were forced to separate from their childhood sweetheart. Although Zhang Mingshu had only been sent to a side courtyard in the northern garrison prince's estate, and Qin Yuanzheng could still visit her when he missed her, the two of them were currently in a honeymoon period. Being forced to separate was still quite painful. At this moment, he was half drunk when he heard someone beside him say, "It is said that when Song Ju will be displaying Master Han Shi's painting today. Brotherly, are you willing to come with me to take a look?" Of course. Qin Yuanzheng's heart skipped a beat. Master Han Shi? Qin Yuanzheng had two passions in his life. One was painting, the other was wine. Unfortunately, his close female friend was not proficient in either of them. Master Han Shi was the most famous painter of the previous dynasty. His skills had already reached the pinnacle of perfection. The people of the world called him the painting saint. He immediately put down the wine cup in his hand and walked towards Wen Songju. "Everyone, today we will be displaying Master Han Shi's most proficient painting, the dim yellow bamboo painting. Please take a look." A middle-aged man dressed like a scholar said in a clear voice. At the same time, he slowly unfurled a painting scroll. On the scroll, there were patches of bamboo forest, scattered cold stones, and gurgling streams. Master Han Shi was worthy of being called a master. With just a few strokes, he had vividly displayed a dim yellow bamboo painting in the depths of the mountains in front of everyone. Many people began to click their tongues in admiration. Finally, the middle-aged scholar revealed his purpose. The general idea was that his family had encountered a great change, and he had no choice but to sell his family's collection. This Master Han Shi's painting was one of the most precious works in his collection. He hoped that a fated person would be able to obtain it. How could Qin Yuanzheng let go of such an opportunity? He immediately opened his mouth to offer a price. However, there were many rich people in the capital. For a moment, there were actually many people competing to raise the price. Qin Yuanzheng was already a bit annoyed. Just as he was about to shout out a high price, he suddenly smelled a faint fragrance. He didn't know what kind of perfume it was, but it lingered in his nose and made him feel refreshed. Immediately after, he felt his sleeve being pulled by someone. Turning his head, he met a pair of eyes as bright as the stars. Without a doubt, This pair of eyes was shockingly beautiful, causing Qin Yuanjing to be slightly dazed. The woman's face was covered with a veil as she softly said, "This young master is too presumptuous. This painting doesn't seem to be authentic." Her voice was clear and crisp, like the collision of gold and jade, extremely pleasant to the ears. Qin Yuanjing was attracted by her voice and the content of her words. He unknowingly followed her to the private room on the second floor. "I wonder if you have any proof that the painting is fake?" Qin Yuanjing still remembered the important matter. The woman Gu Xingyin chuckled. "Dare I ask, young master, what are the characteristics of Mr. Han Shi's brushstrokes?" Qin Yuanjing answered without thinking. "His strength penetrates the paper, his arrogance is unruly, and his painting is just like him." Gu Xingyin nodded. "Then, young master, please think about it again. Was the painting just now like this?" Qin Yuanjing frowned. "I've seen that painting. It's indeed Mr. Han Shi's style." "No." His eyes suddenly lit up. "I know. That really isn't Mr. Han Shi's work." He thanked Gu Xingyin. "Many thanks for your words." Gu Xingyin smiled. "It's just a small matter. I don't want to deceive someone who truly loves painting." Although she was wearing a veil, when she smiled, the beautiful outline of her face could be vaguely seen. Under the veil, it was even more fascinating. Qin Yuanjing was stunned for a moment. Chapter 322. Young Master. Qin Yuanjing recovered from his trance. He was secretly annoyed that he had been absent-minded in front of a woman whose face he had never even seen. If she were new, she would be sad again. Thinking of Zhang Mingxiu, his expression darkened again. Gu Xingyin looked at him like this, and did not know what to do. She gently lowered her beautiful neck. Her exposed skin was plated with a layer of seductive pink because of shyness. Qin Yuanjing's heart fluttered again. He could not help but look at the woman in front of him. He thought carefully in his mind. What kind of beauty was under the veil? "Young master, I will take my leave." Gu Xingyin had achieved her goal, so she said goodbye. Qin Yuanjing wanted to stop her and ask for her name. However, looking at the quality of her clothes, he knew that she was not a girl from a small family. He felt that it would be too rash to ask for her name. So he just watched Gu Xingyin go downstairs and disappear into the crowd. He drank a mouthful of wine and hid the sense of loss in his heart. Gu Xingyin, after going downstairs, let out a sigh of relief. She was not nervous. She was disgusted that she had to pretend to be a shy woman in front of a scumbag like Qin Yuanjing. "Young miss." She went out of the door and went around a corner. An inconspicuous carriage with blue curtains was parked there quietly. The servant girl Jianjia was calling her in a low voice. Seeing Gu Xingyin go out, Jianjia was relieved. Just now, the young miss insisted on going to Wensong residence to see Master Hanqi's painting. She did not allow them to follow her. Jianjia had been restless in the carriage, afraid that something had happened to the young miss. "Young miss, are we going back now?" Jianjia asked. Gu Xingyin shook her head. It was rare for her to go out. If she only met a scumbag, wouldn't it be too boring? "Let's go to the south of the city." Gu Xingyin rolled her eyes and thought of a good place. "You're Mr. Qin. This is where Mr. Chen lives." A man in green said respectfully to a man in blue. This was a courtyard that was not lit up. Above the main gate, there were two large flamboyant characters that read Chen Residence. That blue-robed young master had clear features, and when he smiled, it was like the moon and the wind. Looking closely, it was the person that Gu Xingyin had met in the back garden of the Fu, the present Holy One, Xian de Emperor Qin Shao. "Fu Shi, do you think this Mr. Chen will be willing to become an official?" Qin Shao asked. The person next to him bowed. "With a master like you who respects the wise, which scholar in the world wouldn't want to choose a wise master?" Qin Shao smiled and did not comment on his answer. "Go and call the door." At the same time, a green curtain carriage slowly came to a stop one street away from the Chen estate. "Young miss, what are we doing here?" Jianjia asked. Gu Xingyin looked at this courtyard that had just been renovated. Even the main gate was newly painted. From the materials used to decorate the gate, it could be seen that the owner of this house had put in a lot of thought. Such an exquisite courtyard. It seemed that Zhang Mingxiu had lived well here. Gu Xingyin could not tell other people that she had just come to see the house that Qin Yuanjing used to hide his mistress. She said slowly, I heard that there is a street of wondrous items here. Most of them are imported goods from overseas, so I wanted to come and see. Jianjia muttered. Those goods from overseas? Which of the good things have not been offered to the palace? Every time Darren receives a reward, when has it not been given to you first? Why come and see these inferior things? But since it was the master's request as servants, they could only listen. Chapter 323. Gu Xingyin alighted from the carriage with Jianjia, and Jilan following behind her, as they strolled along the street of strange objects. On this street, there were many young ladies like her who wore a veil, and had servants following behind them. Therefore they did not stand out. Although the kingdom of Qi was not very strict with women's etiquette, and they were allowed to go out without a veil, some young ladies from noble families would usually cover their faces to show off their noble status. Although the things on this street of strange objects were not considered expensive, they were interesting in their own way. Gu Xingyin looked around as she walked. The two servants behind her clicked their tongues in wonder. Young lady, what are you looking to buy? Jilan asked curiously. They had seen many things along the way, but they had never seen their young lady interested in anything. Gu Xingyin smiled mysteriously. Of course, it's something that everyone likes. Jilan did not understand, but Gu Xingyin did not intend to say much. Soon she saw her target. Western Mansion. This was a shop that specialized in selling all kinds of Western and overseas items. It was said that the owner of this shop was a big sea merchant. The items here were considered to be the best in the entire street of strange objects. Gu Xingyin walked in, because the person she wanted to see was here. Sure enough, the moment she entered, she saw a figure in white followed by a servant girl. The two of them were looking at things. Gu Xingyin actually admired Zhang Mingxiu. Every time she saw her, she would wear a different plain white dress. In the kingdom of Qi, white was not a popular color. For the ladies of the Liang family, there were all kinds of clothes: pink, red, yellow, green, and so on. Only white clothes. Other than the winter cloaks and cloaks made of white fur that were beautiful, there were basically no white clothes. Which elder did not like their juniors to wear festive clothes? Instead, they liked to wear white as if they were in mourning. However, it was said that some men liked this kind of soft and delicate appearance. Didn't Qin Yuanjing like this? Zhang Mingxiu did not wear a veil or a curtain when she went out. Gu Xingyin walked to her side and found that she was looking at a pile of red and blue gemstones. Gu Xingyin had a lot of these things. Every time a foreign country sent a tribute, the emperor liked to give some to the important officials. As the imperial tutor, Grand Tutor Liang always got the best portion. Of course, most of those flashy but impractical things ended up in Liang Qinyu's courtyard. Therefore, although these things were precious, they were not enough to catch Gu Xingyin's eyes. On the contrary, there were some things that were suspicious. Gu Xingyin watched Zhang Mingxiu pick and choose silently. After a while, she seemed to have finally chosen. Chapter 324. As soon as the shopkeeper heard Gu Xingyin speak, he knew that she did not come with good intentions. He looked up and down at Gu Xingyin. When his eyes landed on the inconspicuous lake green dress she was wearing, his pupils shrank. For a businessman like him, the most important thing was to have a pair of discerning eyes. If he was not wrong, the material of the clothes on the woman in front of him should be Qianhu green from Jiangnan. Clothes made of Qianhu green would sway slightly when she walked, giving off a feeling of sparkling light when she slept. It was very popular among the harem of the rich and powerful. Qianhu green was extremely precious and rare. Even in a year, there were only a few dozen pieces. Most of them were used as tributes. Those who could afford to use Qianhu green to make clothes. The shopkeeper forced a smile on his face. Miss, what can I do for you? Gu Xingyin did not want to speak up for Zhang Mingxiu. She just had her own motives, and did not want to offend people because of this. I happen to have a box of such rubies at home. Whether it is the color or the transparency, they are much better than yours. This price is not very generous of you. She pointed out. As expected, the shopkeeper's expression changed. He forced a smile and bowed to Zhang Mingshu. I am really sorry, Mississippi. This ruby originally belonged to our lady boss, and was not for sale. Who would have thought that I would put it in the wrong place today, and let you see it? I purposely quoted a high price to make you back off. I apologize to you here. Even if Zhang Mingshu did not know the situation, she knew that there was something wrong with the ruby. Her expression was not good. She did not want to buy the things she had chosen earlier. She turned her head, and saw that Gu Xingyin had already stepped out of the door. She quickly chased after her with her maid. Miss, please wait a moment. Zhang Mingshu called out softly from behind Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin was waiting for her to call out. She stopped in her tracks. Miss, are you calling me? Zhang Mingshu hurried a few steps to catch up with Gu Xingyin. Thank you for speaking up for me just now. Gu Xingyin smiled faintly. I just can't bear to see that shop owner passing off shoddy goods as good ones. Zhang Mingshu thought for a moment and said, Thank you so much for today, Mississippi. I wonder if I can treat you to a meal to express my gratitude? Of course, Gu Xingyin refused. Of course, Zhang Mingshu wouldn't let her refuse. So in the end, Zhang Mingshu invited Gu Xingyin to her home. Miss Zhang lives alone? Gu Xingyin pretended to be surprised and asked. Upon hearing her question, Zhang Mingshu's eyes reddened. Gu Xingyin quickly apologized. Zhang Mingshu changed the topic and chatted with Gu Xingyin about something else. She was surprised to find that this new friend of hers was extremely knowledgeable. No matter what she said, she could respond, and was very considerate of her feelings. For a moment, Zhang Mingshu felt that Gu Xingyin was her bosom friend. Although she lived in Jinbei Mansion as a guest in the capital, she was just an orphan girl whose parents had both died. Those noble ladies didn't like her. Therefore, although Jinbei Mansion often took her out, she didn't make many good friends. Since she was settled in this courtyard, it was even harder for her to find someone to talk to. It was rare to meet someone she could talk to. Of course, Zhang Mingshu was happy. By the time the servants served the food, Zhang Mingshu had already called her sister Meng. Of course, Gu Xingyin couldn't tell her family name. She only said that her surname was Meng, using her mother's surname. Chapter 325. Zhang Mingshu had already secretly thought about the families with the surname Meng in the capital. However, the Meng family was a big family. Just in the capital, there were no less than 10 families. She couldn't guess which family Gu Xingyin was the young miss of. When Gu Xingyin was eating, she took off the curtain on her head. Zhang Mingshu only felt that the room was full of light. She had always been proud of her appearance, but she didn't think that she would meet a person who would compare herself to dust. She suppressed the jealousy in her heart and said with a smile, Sister Meng's beauty really makes people feel ashamed. Gu Xingyin smiled brightly. People like us don't need to rely on our beauty to serve people. Why should we take it too seriously? These words happened to poke at Zhang Mingshu's soft spot. That's right for high-ranking young misses like Sister Meng. Everything was arranged by their family's fathers and brothers. They could find a good son-in-law by relying on their family's status. Why would they need to be like her, advancing step by step to earn a future for themselves? She was a little disinterested after that. Gu Xingyin saw her expression and knew that she must be thinking a lot, so she left after sitting for a while. However, Gu Xingyin didn't expect that when she left, she was seen by someone. Qin Xiao recognized at a glance that the person who came out of the mansion was his little junior sister, Liang Qinyu. Logically speaking, the two of them weren't too familiar with each other. He didn't pay much attention to this little junior sister before, but somehow, she was still wearing the curtain and was recognized by him at a glance. However, the Liang family didn't seem to have a mansion here. Suspicions arose in his heart, and he ordered the people around him, find out who the owner of this house is. In addition, investigate what my little junior sister did today and who she met. He was worried that Liang Qinyu was cheated at a young age. That shadow guard was nodding when he suddenly asked, Little junior sister? Qin Xiao said lightly, Teacher's daughter. This subordinate understands. That shadow guard was shocked. He didn't expect that the imperial tutor's favor was so deep that he really addressed her as a disciple. Gu Xingyin didn't know that her whereabouts had been thoroughly investigated. By the time Qin Xiao returned to the imperial palace, the things he wanted to know had already been inquired clearly. You're saying that the residence is the North Vanquishing Prince's manor, the place where the cousin who had an affair with the North Vanquishing Prince is settled? Qin Xiao was furious when he heard this news. It turned out that after a round of persuasion, the North Vanquishing Prince's mansion made the decision to move to another place so that they could enjoy good food and drink? North Vanquishing Prince's mansion, very good. Then how did little junior sister know about that family? Seeing that little junior sister didn't look angry today, it didn't seem like she knew about this matter. It was just a coincidence that Miss Liang met Zhang Mingxiu. The secret guard told her in detail about their encounter in the Western Mansion. If Gu Xingyin heard this, she would definitely be amazed by the ability of the shadow guards. Not even the slightest detail was missed. In other words, junior sister didn't even know who Zhang Mingxiu was? She thought she had made a new friend. Qin Xiao inexplicably felt distress for the girl who had deer-like eyes. Well, you can leave first. He waved the shadow guard away and stood alone, lost in thought. His heart was filled with anger towards Qin Yuanzheng. He was angry that he clearly had such a good fiancée, but he was still thinking about a woman who shamelessly seduced his cousin. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.